In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to comp using PropStream. Let's jump right into the computer. You log into your PropStream, you input the address. This particular address is just a test dummy. There's no deals behind this. Don't even waste your time skip tracing. I mean, hey, you never know, right? And so input your address into PropStream. Go to the second tab there, comparables and nearby listings, right? The very first thing that I personally like to do is I look at the year built, which is up here, right? 1958. And I know you can go 10 years plus or 10-year minus is usually how an underwriter would comp this property based on the years, right? So what I like to do off the gate is I like to go a 10-year plus and I'll hit 1968. Now you could squeeze that lemon a little more and go to 1970, right? What I like to look at first is there an influx? Is there an influx of properties and comparables? And if there are, then no reason to go to 1970, right? And so the very first filter or trigger you're going to set is the maximum year. In this case, 10 years plus. Likewise, you can set 10 years before. Sometimes, and I'll note, I don't do this all the time. The reason I don't do this all the time is because older homes can be selling pretty well, and you could use those just as an anchor, if you will, something to just look at. But again, if you have, like in this case, over 80 properties, you do not want to look at 80 properties total. You want to narrow that down a little bit. And so here, we'll go ahead and do minus 10 of 1958, which is 1948, right? And that gives us 54 that we've selected. Really 83, but some of those are cash deals instead of the MLS deals. And so that's why it's 83/54. Okay. Now, the second trigger you should do, and what I like to do, is the date range. PropStream is automatically set for 1 year out. Now, this is contingent and dependent on the deal, the location, the county, the city, the zip code. Sometimes you need to go further out in terms of date to find that comp. In this scenario, again, we have an influx of comparables, and so we don't need to go that far out. Let's bring it in a little bit more and see if we can narrow that down a little bit. I can already see here that there are some properties that sold in January. So there are some recent comps. What I like to do is to go anywhere from 3 months to 6 months. Ideally 3 months if it's a flip, because once your buyer, your flipper, is done with that flip in 3 months, then the 3 months comp that you use to sell that deal becomes a 6-month comp. And likewise, that 6-month comp becomes a year. That 6-month comp becomes a 9-month comp. So you see the difference there? So we'll set it to 3 months and see what that gives us. Okay. January 1st. There we go. January 1st, and very important, you change the year here. Just type in a 24, and then you click on the date. So now we've narrowed it down from over 50 comparables down to 14 total, but 9 which are selected. And again, that's the difference between the MLS and the cash deals. So you could do a quick glance on this entire list, right? Just a quick glance, and you'll be able to get that ARV, right? Would it be accurate? Maybe not. The next trigger, the third trigger that I like to set here, right, is, what was I gonna set? What's my third trigger? The third trigger that I like to set here, and what you should set, is the distance. Again, if there's an influx of properties, you don't need to be half a mile out. You can bring that radius in. And so I like to start around 0.20, quarter of a mile, and see what that brings me. So under the distance tab, go ahead and type point, so period, 2, and let's see what that brings us really into where we need to be. So just off the bat here, we have one comp that sold in January 19th, 2024. Now what we do is we evaluate that comp, right? Let's see if it's an apples to apples, right? And keep in mind, if your property has a pool, depending on the state, for example, I've been told by some buyers that in Georgia, a pool more than likely sometimes decreases the value of the property. Here in Florida, you can expect a 10 to absolutely max a 20K bump in a pool. Obviously, there's contingents with that. I mean, if you have a full blown out Olympic size, saltwater pool, there's a difference there. But for the majority of the time, about a 10 to 20 value add with a pool. And so jumping back here, we have one comparable, right? It looks like two. Let's see, it's two really, but one was a public record sold and one was MLS. Same thing here. One was cash. The green one illustrates cash. The blue one illustrates MLS. Now be careful with this. If you go to states like Texas and other non-disclosed states, don't really rely on the public records because hence the name non-disclosed states. So you want to rely on the MLS data. So here, let's look at this. This is what I do. I highlight the address, I right click, and then search Google, right? What I like to do is see if there are any pictures. And if there's no pictures, then we go back. If you can't find pictures in Zillow, more than likely Realtor or Redfin will have them. So check both. Boom, 48. Just automatically, right? Automatically, I know this is more than likely a flip. Look at the lights. Look at the pictures. Look at the cabinets. Look at the most important, the stove. It still has a sticker on it, right? And the paint. Everybody knows that this paint and this flooring combo is usually a flip. And this looks like a home that was staged. It doesn't look like somebody's actually living in this home. And so you look through the pictures, see what it looks like. Looks like the outside was done as well. One thing, and maybe it's just me because I owned this type of business, anytime I see a flip or a nice high-end home, it grinds my gears when the driveway or the walkway, the sidewalk, is not pressure washed, right? It's gonna cost you $150 to upwards of $300 max to have that clean, and the curb appeal that it adds, it's through the roof. Something so small that you can add to your flips by doing a pressure cleaning, the value add it adds just from the sense of the curb appeal and the eyesight of, whoa, it looks like this is new. So let's keep going through these pictures here. Okay. Yeah, this is definitely a flip. Definitely a flip. I like what they did there with that wall there. It's different, it's unique. Yeah, definitely a flip. So you just skim through this, see what you find, see what looks unique, see what looks different from your subject property. Like these doors are really cheap doors. These are called Bostonian doors. I used to build these doors. Very cheap, very low quality, very like entry level. You probably have these in your house. I have them in mine. It's not saying that because you have these, it's terrible. No, it's just a regular built door. But look at the finishes they added to it. It just, that eye appeal increases the value a little bit, right? Yep, same Bostonian door. This is a bifold. I can see the bathroom was done just on a quick glance here. So you look through. I mean, this bathroom looks nice, right? Looks nice. It was done. It's done correctly, right? Okay. So now once you ran through all these pictures, now you have somewhat of a base idea of what the property looks like, right? Now you know, okay, this was a flip, right? Now you know this was a flip. So what you do next is you go into your subject property. If you haven't already, if you don't know what that looks like, obviously I haven't, this is just a demo. And let's go straight into Redfin. Let's see. No pictures on Redfin. Let's check Zillow. No pictures on Zillow. Let's check Realtor. No pictures on Realtor. So what that may indicate is that this property, either one, has never been rehabbed, or two, it's been rehabbed and it was never listed on the MLS, which typically is unlikely, but I have seen it happen. And so what you do is, now you start comparing apples to apples. Now you go and you slide this bar here in PropStream on the bottom right, you slide it to the right, and now you start to compare a little bit. 3 bedroom, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, 2 bath, 1,238 square feet versus your 1,300. It's a perfect. You want to be around a 200 over under on the square feet. You could push that a little bit, but that's where you want to be. The lot, just about the same size. Ours is just like very minorly bigger. And then the year built, we're right there within that 10. We're a few years older. And then the price per square feet. So you could use the price per square feet model to identify what you would list this as. You can do 431 times 1304, and that could be your ARV as well. And so for us, I'll do this math really fast. Let's see here. So we'll do 1304 times 431. So based on PPSF, you can potentially be at an ARV of 562,000, and this one sold for 534. Now you can always account for appreciation. I like to be a little bit more conservative, so I like to be around the same ballpark of the properties that sold. So for this one, we can definitely use this as a comp, right? Now, let's not overcomplicate this. We can scale back the triggers a little bit and find more comparables, but this is a direct comp of a subject property. Same build, same difference. Now, the only difference with ours is that it has a pool. That's it. Everything else is apple to apple. It's within that same community, 2 streets over, but it's not crossing any major roadways or anything like that. Again, the same structure, same build. So this is a direct comp. Ideally, I prefer to have 3 comparables. However, you could twist and bend that depending on how recent the last flip sold and if it was a quick flip. So you could kind of play with that. This one looks like it sold in about 127 days. We can also check to see if there's an average for that particular market, because if the average is really like 30 to 50 days, then that tells us it was slightly overpriced. It may have moved quicker at 510, 500, you know? In this next video, I'm going to show you how to use Zillow to run comps for free and how to evaluate the real estate market that you're diving in by using Zillow. Let's just assume that ARV is what the calculator told us, right? 534 sold for. If we add 10 to 20 for the pool, it's right around there, 550. So let's call it conservatively 550. 550 is your ARV. I can do another video on actually underwriting. How do you get to your MAO? Everybody knows the whole 70% rule. It doesn't work in every market. You will do bigger deals, but your volume will be much smaller because folks like me will come and actually underwrite it where I know a flipper is buying and take that deal from you. And so if you want me to make a video on how to properly underwrite it to where you can still make money, the flipper makes money, and you do volume, leave a comment below and tell me volume. And I'll make sure to make a video on that. 550 is your ARV, solid comps. There we go. Do your underwriting, do your comparables this way, and I promise you will not run out of business.